A very warm welcome to all the delegates who have joined us today on the second day of the fourth CII Real Estate Conference. On the first day of the fourth CII Real Estate Conference, which is supported by our Knowledge Partners Analog Group and sponsors Signature Global, we had an exciting inaugural session with the presence of Mr. Tyagarajan, Chairman CII Western Region, Mr. Deepak Parekh, Chairman HDFC, and Mr. Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. Mr. Tyagarajan stressed on the optimism in the industry and hoped that with strong fundamentals and support from the government, we can be confident that the real estate and housing sector will lead to the revival of India's growth story during the decade ahead. Mr. Anuj Puri set the context of the conference by sharing encouraging numbers of the Indian real estate market that will touch $1 trillion by 2030 if GDP contribution of the sector moves from 6% to about 13% by 2030. Mr. Deepak Parekh, Chairman HDFC, had congratulated the real estate sector for demonstrating remarkable resilience because segments of real estate sector were reeling from NBFC-driven liquidity crisis during the start of the pandemic. And Mr. Jhunjhunwala gave us the mantra for growth, which is a process and has many ingredients. Reputation, timely delivery, good quality will compensate with better prices over time, followed by which we had very informative panel discussions that deliberated on the now, new, and the next of the residential real estate, and an interesting session on shopping experiences getting reimagined with leveraging the digital experience, and a fireside chat with Dr. Saugata Bhattacharya, Chief Economist of Axis Bank. Today, we have an equally power-packed day with fireside chats and panel discussions spanning across varied spectrum. We will be starting the day with a fireside chat with Mr. Mohit Malhotra, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Godrej Properties, where we would talk about how the consolidation in residential sector would lead to transformation for a better future. We will follow this up with a panel discussion in which we will engage with the leaders from the financial sector who would divulge their ideas and views with regards to capital allocations for this sector from a global investor's perspective. And of course, how we could leave out the tech in today's world. Hence, we have a session on new age technologies, key to business acceleration and growth, which will be moderated by Mr. Ninath Karpe. We would then delve into and understand the importance of redesigning workspaces and what's next for commercial real estate. This discussion will be steered by Mr. Jaggi Marwa, Chief Executive Officer of Prestige Group Office Ventures. The second, yes, hospitality. We would also have a conversation about its future and how it is adapting to the new direction of changed human behavior with Mr. Puneet Chatwal, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Indian Hotels Company Limited. Post which we would have an engaging discussion on the rise of women in real estate, Women Up. And we would conclude the session with a discussion on unlocking new opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, so today we start our day with the first fireside chat with Mr. Mohit Malhotra on the topic of consolidating and transforming for a better future. Mr. Mohit Malhotra is the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Godrej Properties, one of India's leading real estate developers with a successful track record of driving transformational growth. A recognized industry leader, Mr. Mohit Malhotra has won several awards and recognitions for his outstanding vision and proven delivery track record. For this fireside chat, may I now invite Mr. Anuj Puri, Chairman, ANAROCK Group. Mr. Puri, I would appreciate if you could take ahead the conversation, please. Thank you.
Mohit, it's a delight to chat up with you. Thank you for taking out the time. Always a pleasure speaking with you. You are really the poster boy of the Indian real estate, and your firm is the darling of the stock markets. You're also a fitness guru. I've known you for many, many years, and the way that you've taken care of both work-life balance is something to learn, and the way that you have commanded the respect within the consumer within the various stakeholders, including your investors and the markets, has been just fantastic in there. I've sort of just 5 questions, knowing that we have about 20 minutes between ourselves. My first question is, what are the 2 learnings from this pandemic that you think is that going forward, as this pandemic becomes an endemic, you will continue within your business?
Yeah, thanks, Anuj, for such a kind introduction. Yeah, if I really ask, the pandemic has been a game changer for all of us. We all have been on a treadmill, and suddenly we are off treadmill. Everyone has kind of had time to think. And yeah, I think 2 learnings, if you really ask me. One was personal, about prioritization, what's important in life, especially the importance of health, family, and it really helps prioritize for everyone. The second was professional. How do we lead teams in an environment like this? How do we ask teams to do construction, do sales, especially when people were worried about their own health. So I think that was a very difficult but a fine balance we had to strike. And the learning was a lot about empathy and communication, and really kind of I think typically the business leaders would push the teams in performing, but this time you couldn't do it because you yourself very cognizant of life was at stake at some point of time. So I think how do we get this balance right, and how do we create pull in the teams? That's the biggest learning, Anuj. As a leader, you can push the teams and you can create X results. But if you can create the pull and the desire in the teams, then the result would be 10x. And that's been proven by the company, by my team, where, despite this pandemic, we actually ended up doing some record sales, record, construction and work. So, this was a second learning. The third, of course, was, was more for our industry. I've seen this industry, going through its ups and downs. It's a very cyclical industry. And I think importance of risk management came out. Thankfully, we always had a view that we want to be very strong on our balance sheet. So we did timely fundraisers. When the pandemic hit us, we were sitting on almost 3,000 crores of cash in the bank due to a timely fundraise. So I think kind of explains that we need to be ready with this, black swan event. It can come in some form or the other. It came in 2008 as Lehman crisis. This time it was COVID crisis. But we need to check, if a black swan event hits, can the company sustain that period and should not become, almost, unviable. So I think these were few learnings. But yeah, it was a pretty interesting times to lead the company.
And then Mohit, it is so right. All the 3 points that you said is, the health. We were not as cognizant of the health, prior to the pandemic. Clearly on the risk. I think that industry, the various stakeholders within this industry size up the risk very differently. And that's where some of them got caught out because the sizing of the risk wasn't done appropriately. But I think the third point that you said was so beautiful, saying that, how do I make sure that there's a fine balance in getting the business done, yet have empathy with the teams, with the entire environment. And, that has been a tough one for most of the organizations to do it is. In tech companies, perhaps you can do that, Mohit. But in a company like yours, which is hardcore asset, where construction has to go on, delivery has to go on, the activity has to continue. Yes, some of the team members can work from home, but largely people have to be at the site. And yet have that fine balance of having the empathy and delivering. Fantastic here.
Thank you, Anuj.
Second one is you have a ton of cash. I mean, even recently you had made the announcement that there's about $1 billion to do more acquisitions. It does appear you stay very bullish on the Indian real estate. Is that for the foreseeable next 3-5 years, or even longer than that?
Yeah, we have been bullish all throughout, Anuj. We have been growing the company and investing almost for last 4 years. If you look at last 3 years, we would have deployed close to or committed close to 700 to 900 million dollars in the Indian real estate sector. We continue to remain bullish. Two reasons. Earlier the whole story was about consolidation, and how this is going to benefit large companies like us, and it's visible. The only constraint in our company today is ability to get a project launch ready. After that, it's autopilot, and sales are kind of happen on its own. So for us, the whole focus is, can we get more and more projects in the pipeline? The lands are at attractive terms. It's I wouldn't say it's undervalued, but it's pretty fairly valued. So I think that is obviously a right timing. The third is, we always had a view that the cycle is going to turn. So we shifted our strategy in 2018 when we said we would like to deploy more capital in this business, and we were betting on the cycle turning. Now I think there is a broader consensus within the industry, within the larger environment, that yes, cycle is finally turning, and COVID has played a very important role in that. So overall, we remain actually extremely bullish, and we are looking forward to partnering with more people, and create win-win partnerships and develop more projects for our consumers, and benefit the industry and also the organization.
And Mohit, it is so true that the sun, moon, and the star, all three aligned. From GPL's point of view, the balance sheet was strong. There was cash on the balance sheet. Consolidation definitely, started to play, and it is continuing to play. The stronger brands, the developers who've delivered in the past, are the ones where they are getting the benefit of this environment, and the entire cycle for real estate has changed, which not only for India, perhaps globally, it has changed. So really, the moon, the sun, and the star all got aligned.
That's true.
Does it mean that you will open markets in some of the other cities? I know you had really consolidated.
Right.
Does this give an opportunity to move to some of the other cities?
Yeah, Anuj, we have started evaluating. While there's a lot of growth opportunity in the cities we are present, we feel there is an opportunity now to look at next set of cities. So we are evaluating it. We have also evaluating, entering some of the new cities through plotted developments. So some of those projects are also in pipeline. But I think the next leg for the company, we would like to look at new cities.
But we're seeing that the input cost, the cost of raw materials, is really starting to shoot sharply. And there will be some ability for the developers to be able to absorb that cost. But at some stage, this will need to get passed on to the consumer. When do you think that stage is going to come, or has it come? And what percentage do you think will need to be passed on to the consumer? And what will that reflection be on the sale price?
That's a great question, Anuj. This year, when we were doing our annual operating plans, one of the key themes was the hike in construction cost. When you're doing cost to complete exercise, there was a significant increase in steel, cement, some of the other commodities across the board. And frankly speaking, today, after almost 8-9 years of downturn, not seeing price hikes, and some places actually depreciation of price, margins are already very thin, and ability to absorb such a massive cost was not possible. Thankfully, we are also in a place where the markets are changing. The broader cycle is in a positive way. So we chose to pass on these cost hikes to the consumers. We've already taken price hikes across our projects wherever possible from Q3 onwards. And some of our recent launches, if you see, we have taken price hikes to absorb this. Now, the good news is that while the commodity price jump was very significant, as a percentage of top line,
Correct.
that number is not really crazy. It's between 2 to 5% of the sales value. And again, I think those kind of cost is or price hikes could be absorbed by the market. We're not talking about 20, 30 crazy price hikes which happened in the previous era. I think these are small price hikes. People also understand, the rationale for doing this. And given the way demand is going on, we could pass it on. And we are actually seeing, it got,
Nice.
very properly absorbed by the market.
But what can sort of derail this party? Is there anything that you think is that can stop? Because the consensus is absolutely correct. What you're saying is that for stronger developers, for good quality developers with strong balance sheet, this market has turned. Is there anything that you think is that we're not thinking through that can disrupt this?
Yeah, I think if we take too aggressive price hikes and go little aggressive, then it can definitely derail. Because see, it's an end consumer who is buying this house, and affordability has to be on top of the mind. So I think if we keep consumer in as a front and center and take all decisions with respect to that, I think we will be taking right decisions as organizations. But if we get into the euphoria mode, which is very much possible, once the cycle turns, then obviously it will, create its own set of issues. But overall, Anuj, I feel, we are in a extremely positive phase, and next 8 to 10 year horizon, I'm actually, super optimistic. So I'm actually very bullish.
I share your optimism, and I share that one concern that you have said is Mohit. That is the only concern that I have in my mind, is that if sort of greed overtakes fear, and then it can become a party pooper. But otherwise, I agree with you, is that it does look like in a safe place where there is going to be a fair amount of growth. But do you think product is going to play a big role, product differentiation, as we go more and more into maturity of this cycle?
Absolutely, Anuj. It's, a lot of people have different views on how they look at real estate business. I have this view almost for last, I would say 5 to 8 years, where I said it is a consumer business. It is, we need to treat this as a consumer business. And I actually came from a FMCG background. I started my career with Unilever. So I had some of those experiences, and I actually looked at this industry in a very different light compared to how others might have been looking at. And we said this is a consumer business, and we need to first put consumer at the heart of every decision. Very dissimilar to how an FMCG company would think. And there, what happens with that is the product development is not, randomly decided by 2 people in an office. You need to do consumer research. You need to understand in a micro market what are the potential options, what does consumer want, what are their pain points, what is their affordability, and then design a product around that possibility. So I think that is really a critical part. Again, the second part is about when we sell the project till the delivery. It's about how we are treating consumer, how we are managing their expectations, how the interactions are happening. We have now chosen technology as a way to handle that. We have, a consumer app both on Google and Apple for our consumers. So all the interactions practically can happen through the app, which is a great way, because we are talking about upwards of 30,000-40,000 consumer interactions now. And of course, last is, you need to deliver an extraordinary product for the consumer. I think we have, this is one really big challenge, Anuj, for the industry. Uh, I've seen this. I wouldn't call us as the best in class on that. We recognize that this is an area we would like to definitely improve on as an organization. And there are, 2-3 things we have done on that front. One was, we said, what is the biggest issue when we deliver a product? Actually, it's not, everybody focuses on those 3 things which is important. Like, clubhouse will be fantastic, the gardens, everything is superb. But when you get into your house as a consumer, and then you have to switch on, the TV, you realize that the switch of the TV is right where the TV should be located. So it's, you feel very unhappy on small detailings. The AC ducts are not placed properly, and then it creates havoc for the end consumer. So we realize there's a lot of issue on design detailing. The small things, how many, say switches should be there, at what height, what size. So there's like these, look frivolous when we talk about it, but this is where most of us go wrong. The width sometimes of corridors go short, and people are not able to bring their furniture. So all these things we said, let's solve it at scale through design standardization. So now we are running a project over last 2 years where we are saying, can we create a unit which can be replicated like how an automobile is replicated over lakhs of units, and let's just perfect that unit in terms of consumer experience. So I think that's one big area of focus. The second is the product delivery, where now we have a strategic tie-up with CQRA, which is doing quality audits for us, and we get very timely intervention as management team, and we can quickly take actions. A lot of incentives of our operations teams are now linked to quality, and it's measured. Every quarter we have audit and we measure it. And third is the facility management part, about how to create a thriving community once people live in. That's again something which is a very strategic area for us. We are looking at incubating that business for our projects. So a lot of focus. I feel trust will no longer be a it will become a hygiene. If you look at a 5-10 year horizon, it is a hygiene factor for the industry. So we will have to differentiate as a company, as every company in the industry, and we feel consumer is the way we would like to differentiate by creating extraordinary product and the whole experience in our community. So that's the most important area of focus, Anuj, for me.
Mohit, it's such a pleasure to listen to you. Amazing. You can be at strategy 10,000 feet, and then you can be at 100 feet. You can be at, the corridor's width is very narrow to where the plug for the television should be, to speaking capital markets language. And then that to me is the success. Because I think many are in one of the two categories. Very difficult to do this transition. And look at it, the points that you're saying is, I want convenience for the customer. I want experience for the customer. The hygiene of trust and delivery is done. Till now, it may have been trust and delivery what got GPL, to this. Going forward, this is going to be hygiene. Everybody will have to have the trust and ethics and delivery and governance. Now it is, what is that differentiation, which is the word that you used. I want, customer experience to be brilliant when they're buying something from us. I have a great learning here. Last couple of questions, Mohit. I remember last when we met up, you had mentioned about Chinese developers and, in terms of size and scale, they were so much more larger than where we were. Do you think, within the Indian developers, we would be able to see that size and scale as well?
Absolutely, Anuj. I am a firm believer of it. If you look at someone like Wanke, or other companies, the top 5-10 developers in China, they're all closer to 80 billion to 100 billion kind of
Wow.
sales annually. Uh, and see, look at what happened there. These top developers in 2008-9, post the last crisis which happened globally, they had a very similar market share. The top 10 developers market share was around 10-11% in China. Today it's upward of 30% plus. So if a consolidation can happen in a vast country like China, there's no reason why it should not happen in India. So I think scale is almost inevitable because industry is going to grow rapidly. The consolidation is going to create very limited number of players who could win in this and deliver. So by default, if you just divide the total size by number of players, each player has to be of a scale. I think the challenge is not the opportunity. The challenge would be the execution. And would people, including us, be able to scale up? Because it's not easy to run a scale business. You have done a fantastic job in running, ANAROCK and creating scale business, which is extremely amazing. But it's not easy, and it needs a different leadership mindset. I think it starts from there. It needs a extremely different way of thinking in terms of how decision making is done. And these are not easy things for people to do. So I think opportunity is there, Anuj. Now the question is how many of us can take the advantage and benefit from that opportunity.
Clearly agree with you, Mohit. I think post-COVID, certainly in the residential real estate, the opportunities have opened up. It will be about execution. It will be about delivery. I think before that, it was about opportunities. That there weren't those many. Today and going forward over the next 5-10 years, you will have a lot of opportunities. It is going to be, who's going to efficiently, productively deliver on these opportunities and mine those opportunities is perhaps going to be the winner. My last question, Mohit, a little bit personal. Given your size, scale, and given the various stakeholders that you handle, how do you manage your work-life balance? And if it wasn't that you were in real estate, which other sector would you choose?
Yeah, I have actually worked across sectors, Anuj. Post doing my MBA from IIM Calcutta, I worked with HLL. Then I worked with A.T. Kearney as a management consultant before jumping into real estate. So I've had a lot of diverse, did some bit of private equity in the middle. So I have a lot of diverse experience. But I chose real estate because I really love the sector. I love this uncertainty. I love the ambiguity. I love this, daily getting up and facing 10 different challenges. It's not boring. See, you can't get bored in our industry.
Correct.
It's really a roller coaster, right? I think so. I enjoy it. If at all I was not in real estate, probably I would be in, a private equity kind of a venture, because I'm more of a finance person. I look at business from a shareholder perspective. So I think that could be only potential place one could have been there. But I really love our industry, and I don't feel need to be in any other place.
And
so what was
balance
your? Yeah, I think that's always a tough one, and it's constantly a struggle for all of us to strike this balance. I think two things I would say has helped, Anuj. One is, there's something called, I say, prioritization and focus on worthy. So I'm very clear what is my priority for a quarter, and I just focus on like one or two things. I don't get into the nitty-gritties unless I really want to. So I think that's really a critical part. Focus on worthy. Spend time on things which can have a extremely high return on time investment. So I think that is one thing. And the second is, a question related to our previous aspect on scale. I believe in delegation, and I believe in not taking 100% of decisions myself. So and you have seen our
I've seen
teams and
that.
our
Absolutely.
leadership team.
I endorse that.
So 80 to 90% of the work is done by my leadership team, and so I get time to have a fun along with the work. Um, but I think these are the two elements: having a very strong leadership team, giving them empowerment and trust, and secondly is about prioritization and focus on worthy.
Mohit, absolutely a delight. I know we've run out of time. You have to go as well. But what a delight, to have this conversation. Look forward to our next set of conversations. Mohit, seems to be a good time for the Indian real estate industry, for the right players. You're absolutely correct the way you summarized. Opportunity is going to be there. It's all going to be about execution and delivery. And who all are going to be able to deliver, they are the ones who are going to be able to have the scale and size that this country needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Anuj. It's a pleasure to be part of this discussion. And I must say, I look up to you as an industry leader, as a veteran, and, really learn from you in every interaction. So look forward to having another one soon.
Done. Thank you, Mohit.
Thank you, Anuj.
Thanks. Bye.
So after that very interesting conversation between Mr. Anuj Puri, Chairman, ANAROCK Group, and Mr. Mohit Malhotra, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Godrej Properties,